When I started Mustang Medicine, um, it originally it actually goes back. I started Mustang in like 2017, and it came from somebody coming out to one of the workshops that I was doing. I was doing a Mustang laydown. Ended up having thousands of people attend that over the years, and a friend of mine said to me, your Mustangs were like medicine to my soul. So from there, I was like, that's actually really cool, and named it Mustang Medicine. Prior to Mustang Medicine, I was with an organization that rescues children from child sex trafficking. And I had started with them like 2014, and had an opportunity to travel to different parts of the world. And when I first started, I didn't even think that I was so naive, I guess, to this idea or this concept of uh, children being trafficked for various reasons. Labor, slavery is a big deal. Um, it was hard for me to wrap my mind around it. I had an opportunity, though, as the years went on, to start traveling and meeting with some of the leading traumatologists that are out there. And what they explained to me was that trauma was not the event that happened. Trauma is the what's left inside of us in the absence of an empathetic witness to that event. So in other words, that's Peter Levine who said that. And he's one of the leading traumatologists. Now, that's not who I was chatting with or working with, but they were all essentially quoting that. What that means is that we have traumatic events, and traumatic is not the same as trauma. Traumatic means it's an event or an experience that can cause wounding. And in this case, we're talking about the wounding of the sense of self. So if you have physical trauma, again, trauma, the Greek word is trauma, and what it means is to have a wound. And so something was whole and then it was split apart. And when there's healing, you take that split apart and you put it back to whole. So now it's healed. The Greek word for healing means a return to wholeness. And so wholeness is the opposite, like the conceptual opposite or the direct opposite of woundedness or trauma. And so you have a traumatic event, meaning it has the potential to rupture the sense of self. However, if you have an empathetic witness that can help you from splitting from yourself. So I was abandoned. That was the traumatic experience, but it doesn't mean that I am worth abandoning. And that's because we have an empathetic witness who helps us to be able to see you're not worth abandoning. That's that other person's, stuff. And it doesn't mean that you're worth abandoning. So I am abandonable is true, but also as an adult, it's not true. It is true only for children, because a child is truly codependent. Now, what's really interesting, and meaning a child doesn't have the ability to like take care of their basic needs and provide for themselves, so they really are abandonable. But as an adult, if we've had healthy development, then we have the ability to make choices and build a life. Now, when we see adults that are unable to do that, that's because the wounded child inside of them is still alive. Those subconscious beliefs are still creating the behaviors, and then the behaviors aren't getting the results that they want. There are no illogical behaviors. You can see the flow chart on that. So when we're seeing those kinds of results, essentially what we're seeing is an adult with an inner wounded child. that is still believing those, and that's in the subconscious, so they won't even be aware of it. So this is not something that I could talk to you about and convince you of, nor is it something that you can talk to others about and convince them of. Eventually, we have to have enough safety and presence within the community that truth that we may believe about ourselves starts to surface. And then you're having a somatic realization, not just an intellectual realization. What the mind needs is different than what the body needs. How the mind learns is different than how the body learns. How the body communicates is different than how the mind communicates. The videos coming up will explain all of that and go into detail on like how the mind and the body are actually working together. And sometimes they're working opposite of each other because we're not aware of what's going on in the subconscious of the nervous system and of the body, meaning the belief systems. So the children that I was able to meet as I was traveling around, it was the most fascinating experience. I would meet some children, and knowing their history and kind of their case, right? That you would think there's no way for that child to recover from what has happened. And then there were other children, and they were horrific and terrible. So one child might actually have been trafficked for years, and another child might have been trafficked for like a month or two. And I saw something that was really intriguing to me, and that is these children that had like bigger, more traumatic cases, not to make any comparisons. I would meet some of these children, and I swear they were raised in Disneyland. They were raised by the greatest parents on the earth. They look like they were raised by Jesus and Buddha themselves. And yet, knowing some of their history, it was totally shocking to me. Now, I would see this child who maybe only been trafficked for a fraction of the time, and not even had the same experiences in that history that this other child had had. And this child would be what you would expect, just very, very deeply fractured sense of self. And this is where I started getting insight from the traumatologist, and essentially what they were saying is that this child hasn't made any of those experiences mean anything about them, and this child has made those experiences mean something about them. And we all do this, but there's not an experience that will say, therefore you are going to believe this about yourself. So it's all personalized, is what I'm trying to say. And that started opening up and my mind to saying, well, then how do you heal the trauma? And what is the purpose of trauma? And what is the purpose of healing? When I saw that, I then, in my own way, started connecting it to the training and the gentling of wild horses. And here's why. The nervous system with a horse and a human is identical. The limbic system with a horse and a human is identical. This means that the limbic system is the emotional brain, right? It's the emotional center. So all of our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our perceptions are all identical to horses, and horses are identical to us. They have a different part of the brain. The horses don't have a prefrontal cortex. So they can't tell stories about the experiences that happen. They can only react to the emotions and the thoughts and the perceptions. Like I'm being attacked, and so therefore I need to fight, flight, freeze, right? Fawn, follow the herd. For humans, fawning is people pleasing. All of that is essentially identical between horses and humans. So when you're gentling a wild horse, what you're really doing is you're rewiring the nervous system. When you're healing our bodies and our belief systems, we're revealing the subconscious beliefs that we've made those traumatic experiences, what we've made that mean about ourselves, while simultaneously we still have to rewire the nervous system. So as I started looking at that, and then I eventually decided to move on to a different profession, I actually became extremely passionate about what I now call Mustang Medicine, and the journey that that's taken me on has felt like as equally of uh, a calling, a deeply passionate thing for me. And here we are today, right? Dozens and dozens and dozens of retreats, uh, one-on-one clients, workshops, thousands of people. It all came really from that, trying to say, if I could figure out how to gentle a wild horse, well, then there's in rewire the nervous system. Well, then there's no reason that we can't apply the same things. And Bessel van der Kolk has an amazing quote on this. And in fact, let me grab my phone. My phone's right here. And I'm just going to pull this up, and I want to read this to you. Let me open up my Kindle. This is Bessel van der Kolk in his top-selling book, The Body Keeps the Score. And I should have that right here. I'll put this quote in the PDF materials as well. Actually, I have a screenshot of it in my folder. Here we go. The challenge is, how can people gain control over the residues of past trauma and return to being masters of their own ship? Talking, understanding, and human connection help. And drugs can dampen hyperactive alarm systems. Now he's talking about like psychedelics. Bessel van der Kolk was a part of one of the most well-funded studies on with MDMA and how they help rewire our belief systems. MDMA allows us to feel really safe inside of our body. Therefore, we're filled with compassion and contentment. And then those subconscious beliefs can come up. I did a really incredible podcast interview with Diary of a CEO. I'll put that link in there, in here as well, in the resources, and highly, highly recommend that. He has a whole section in that interview where he talks about this study that they did. And so that's what he means by drugs. They can dampen hyperactive alarm systems. Hyperactive alarm systems is like we're just getting triggered all the time. We're just constantly looking for danger. Now, one of the shifts in consciousness that we want to eventually start making is to see how active is my alarm system inside of me. And that's a shift in consciousness that when you can start to return to your wholeness, when you've got someone that's constantly looking, right? And I'm being very dramatic in that. You don't have to have like shifty eyes all the time. You just kind of like, I know how people behave. I know how this is going to go. Those are your perceptions, and they exist for very good reasons, but it doesn't mean that those are truth. I don't see the world as it is. I see the world as I am. So he then goes on to say, but we will also see that the imprints from the past can be transformed. So we can heal. From the past can be transformed by having physical experiences that directly contradict the helplessness, the rage, and collapse that were a part of trauma, and thereby regaining self-mastery. The key part about this quote is that you have to have physical experiences. These are somatic experiences. Soma, the Greek word for body, is soma. So physical or somatic is kind of saying the same thing. You've got to have these somatic or these physical experiences being directly in like the near identical situation, but then having a totally different experience in it. And talking and somebody understanding and validating and witnessing the pain of the original experiences is a necessary step. But that's all happening in the mind. not in the physical body or the somatic body. So the body has to go through that experience, but having a safe container to be able to have a different outcome. Now we've started to rewire the nervous system. It's the same thing in wild horses. If you have, and I'll try to contextualize this, horses view humans, particularly wild horses. You know, Mustangs are born out in the wild, and out in the wild, all predators are out to hurt you, harm you, or kill you. So they learn to stay away from predators. Well, when humans adopt a wild horse, the Mustang is looking at the human as the apex predator of the animal kingdom. And one of the reasons that they know that is because humans have eyes in the front of your face, and all prey animals have eyes on the side of their face. So if you've got eyes in the front of your face and you've got these little canine teeth, you're a predator. End of story. I'm going to fight you. I'm going to run from you. I'm going to totally panic and freeze and have a collapse situation. And so the helplessness, the rage, the collapse that happens in these very traumatic experiences, we need to mirror that experience and that situation, but that there is no helplessness. There is, in this new container that contradicts the original experience, the contradiction is that there's no helplessness, that there's full expression, there's the ability to have a voice, there's the ability to set boundaries. So going through somatic experiences oftentimes are set up professionally and on purpose to be able to go into it. And now you're choosing into it. There's tons of great exercises that are out there, and we can talk about those in our one-on-one sessions if you've got those scheduled, to be able to point you in the direction of places that provide those types of contradictory experiences that give you a voice and allow you to set your boundaries and essentially reclaim your power. That is the way to heal and rewire the nervous system. So with horses, you can't just walk into a wild pen, a pen with a wild Mustang and just like slap a halter on with a carrot in your hand and be like, "Hey, buddy, I'm your friend." It's not going to happen, because they have all these old experiences of predators out there actually trying to hurt them, harm them, or kill them. And so we're moving really slowly to eventually, like, one of the most powerful moments is that you can get close enough, because the Mustang is like being courageous just enough to like not run or not fight. And then rather than like me reaching out and touching the Mustang, I'm always waiting for the Mustang to reach out and touch me. And so sometimes I'm standing really close, and I could stand there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I've stood there before for over like 45 minutes and never had the Mustang even reach out. And it's just like, well, even just standing there was something that was new, because what do predators always do? They always attack. Right. So me just standing there for 5 minutes, and then the horse not reaching out and touching me or trying to be, there's no curiosity. So he's not curious about this thing that's frightening him. And so then I just walk away, because predators never walk away. That alone will create a contradictory experience to his old life. And that will be very, very healing to his nervous system and rewire. And if you do that enough times, well, then eventually the horse starts having these new physical experiences that are proving to him, this may be an apex predator, but he's not here to hurt me or harm me, because if he would have done it by now. Now, when the horse then eventually reaches out and touches me, he might sniff me or something like that, touch me with his little Fabrice little whiskers, then I walk away. And it's like, oh, and then all of a sudden the horse will start following you. Now we're rewiring the nervous system. So that same thing has to happen with humans. We are, so having learned all of that, I was like, oh, we just need to slow it down with our own nervous systems and be able to be in an environment where our vulnerabilities are never weaponized, that there's no pace that we have to go at. It's not a task to heal. We just take the time that it takes. And that's very, very important. And in our calls, we'll customize that to you and help you like really contextualize that. But that was the essentially the foundation of Mustang Medicine. Now it started turning into workshops, and then it started turning into retreats, and then having retreats with some of the most brilliant people that I know that we partnered up on at like Rewilding and Nurtured by Nature, and just started building a really incredible group of people that understood these principles and would be able to hold the container. Um, then people started reaching out, and they were like, hey, what I just experienced in the workshop, and then I need more. And I was like, well, come to the retreat. And then they said, well, now I need more, and I need to contextualize, and I need to like peel the onion back and the new layer within myself. And this feels like a safe place to do that. So then I started doing one-on-one coaching, and I was spending a lot of time, these videos, I was spending a lot of time on our calls, and then it was like, well, why don't we just make like a video series so that I don't have to spend that time. You can watch this, and here we are. And that's kind of the origin. And that's taken years to get to this point, and tons of reading and research and understanding. And it was my own journey. Everything that I'm sharing here is really just an expression of my own journey, and it's anecdotal, and at the same time, from my own experiences, it actually works from the experience of clients and the experience of my friends who are around me, who are also on this journey. And we're all making little shifts in consciousness and how close of a community that we actually have, and how safe it is, how present we are. And that's a thing that I mean, you look at like attachment styles. If you're familiar with attachment theory, you've got anxious, you've got avoidant, and then you have, a mixture of the both, of both anxious and avoidant. And then you have a secure attachment. So there's essentially 4 attachment styles. The guy that came up with the attachment theory in his book called Attached, and it has a picture of like a magnet that's on the front. It's a white book with I'll post it in the in the PDF resources. He said that just to change attachment styles from anxious to secure, or from avoidant to secure, or disorganized, which is the mix between the two, to secure attachment or connection, is, I think, a better way to articulate that. That generally takes about 3 years. And it happens from having contradictory experiences to what the past was. And how you became avoidant is based on what the past was. How you became anxious is based on what the past was. And so now to step into sovereignty, to step into having really healthy boundaries, and being able to have really healthy connection with the self, so that you can have secure attachment with others, that rewiring process and all of the different contradictory experiences, it has to happen. And you have to have a partner or friends, family members that are doing the same thing. They're on the same path. You can't be doing this alone and expecting different results, so you've got to have someone, at least one other person, who can be on this journey with you. And now you can have your contradictory positive experiences together. In many cases, we have been the only ones for some people. The foundation of that is to never weaponize someone's vulnerabilities. Vulnerability means a willingness to be wounded. So, when somebody is really trying and they're going down that road, and old perceptions are popping up, and subconscious beliefs are driving the perceptions, that are leading to the behaviors. Sometimes it's messy, and we have to believe that there are no illogical behaviors, that there's a premise I probably just don't understand, and that I have my own healthy boundaries, and I can be contained within myself, and that there's a willingness to be vulnerable with the other, from the other person, so that then you can have accountability. And then you just promise each other not to weaponize each other's vulnerabilities. Sounds simple. It's definitely not easy, and it's definitely a process. And this journey, I would expect it to take a couple of years, But the video series, you know, you can go at this as fast as you want, but there is no quick gentling of the nervous system and the rewiring of the nervous system at the deepest levels. This is the human experience, and this goes on for a long time. But this video series and our coaching is to give you all the tools so that you can go on that journey with your person and your community that you have, and spread this out. And just know it's going to take time. It still takes time between Amy and I. It still takes time between my friends and I, because we're still functioning off of subconscious beliefs. I'm not aware of any study that says we reveal all of our subconscious beliefs. I am aware, though, that eventually we can become so aware of how our pattern behaviors of protection are getting in the way of our connection. And we just start seeing these core patterns, and we can become aware of those and then start making the shift in consciousness to be able to get to connection. And it all starts with the self, and then gets out to those few people that are in your inner circle. Leave comments in the comment section if you want me to clarify any of this, or write down your notes so that we can go and dive deeper into the nuance of this and how it applies to your life. And I'll see you in the next video.